some great games, some unbelievable finishes, some real thrills, some drama, and also absolutely zero evidence of Cinderella still existing. Now, last year this was also the case, and I wrote a column about it. And some people said you're premature, you're too small a sample size. 2 years is different. We have doubled the sample size. Still the case. Doesn't mean I don't think we're never going to see Loyola Chicago again or a Missouri Valley team make a run, but it is significant that everybody still playing, the 16 teams left, are from power conferences, and out of those, 14 are from schools that play big-time football. I guess you could even say 15 if you want to give UConn the benefit of the doubt. But so we are missing a long-held, cherished element of the NCAA tournament. Kevin, you wrote about this after the first round of games. What happened? What's going on? And then I want your opinions on whether this is a really bad thing or whether it's okay.
Yeah, so I took it basically from three big angles. And I think big picture, what I would say is that there are a lot more factors than simply, NIL and the portal have created an environment where the best teams have so much more money and so much more resource that they have to dominate, right? I think that is true. I don't think it's the only thing driving this. I think number one, the best teams are better. If you look analytically back to like 2022, Vanderbilt, who was a 5 seed, would have been like a 1 seed caliber team based on KenPom relative to the quote unquote center of college basketball. That's how KenPom builds its metrics, is you're compared basically to what the average team would be. Vanderbilt compared to average as a 5 seed this year is as good as the 1 seeds were back then. So there's less parity, 1 to 365. There's probably more parity, 1 to 10, 1 to 20. Number two, one of the things I talked to both Nate Oates and Grant McCasland about was the idea that, the way you always won as the little guy was to have more continuity, to be tougher, to be older, to be more together. They don't have that anymore, right? I mean, Alabama was playing Hofstra. Hofstra's best player in the game was a freshman. So it's a hard way to live. And then the third angle that I think has been pretty under discussed, but I think it's maybe the most important factor, like X and O wise, is that like the game has totally changed stylistically from a couple of years ago. Right. And you think back to, we'll use 2022 as sort of the last dance for pre-NIL, pre-portal, pre-everything, right? 2022, everyone was trying to play quote unquote pro style. They wanted to shoot threes. They wanted their 4 men to shoot. They wanted their 5 men to shoot. And that injects a lot of volatility into the game. And one of the things Todd Golden and I talked about, and Todd is a coach that has been one of the quote unquote leaders of the charge in this, of playing bigger again, like building the football team of a front court, essentially. Like, you really reduce your volatility as a team when you are elite at protecting the rim, elite at rebounding the basketball. And if you look at the quote unquote next wave of elite coaches, right? Dusty May, John Shire, Todd Golden, Dan Hurley, the list goes on. Like Ryan Odom, the Virginia team is built this way. They're all really big, really physical, and they win the possession war, essentially. And so the mid-major team that's built with small guards that fire up threes, it's a tough way to live in that setting. And so I think that's probably an underrated part. Now, again, you can build those teams in part because of NIL and because of the portal, right? Florida does not have Alex Condon this year if he can't get paid multiple $1 million to come back. That's the reality. But I don't think it's as simple as, now that players can transfer freely, the small schools are cooked forever. I do think these things will stylistically shift back and forth. But I do think it's bad for the tournament if we don't have upsets, if we don't believe that it's possible. I'd say we still probably can believe it's possible. Again, we should have long enough memories to remember Fairleigh Dickinson, to remember St. Peter's. Shoot, I mean, I have 72 hours of memories ago to when Siena was up 13 in the second half against Duke. Like, it's Siena with 5 players. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't think we are in full fatalistic mode, but I do think it's a lot harder than it's been. And because of that, I think you'll see less of it. And we've just been probably unfortunate that a lot of the games you had a chance in, the Siena game, Wright State against Virginia, some of the 4-13s and 5-12s that were more competitive, they just couldn't quite get over the line.
And yeah, I definitely add that, I think that the NIL component almost gets overemphasized in this discussion. I mean, even this past weekend, I mean, we're talking about Kentucky, flopping with the amount of money that they spent on their roster. The same at places like Kansas and North Carolina. So you could have money, and that certainly has provided an advantage for a lot of those, high major teams in terms of building the roster. But it's not everything. And I look at just the size of these leagues too. Like that, I think that's a contributing factor of these last couple of years. The Big 12 has expanded, the SEC has expanded, the ACC has ballooned to 18. That's a factor. And then those leagues that some of those schools were coming from, whether it's the Big East or others, they've backfilled. So it's the mid majors are now playing up a level too, in terms of the conference. So I think that is another contributing factor. I think the seeding probably gets under, Kevin, you mentioned it, like the committee itself is doing such a better job. I mean, it was strange this year where we were not complaining about outside of maybe St. John's having a case and the Big East with UConn maybe being overseeded and St. John's being underseeded, not a whole lot of complaints over the work of the committee. And even going back last year, maybe North Carolina's inclusion was kind of the one thing that everybody kind of glummed onto, but the committee has done a better job and just in terms of seeding and where those mid majors are in the tournament and in the bracket, where these high majors are and in terms of the season that they are deserving. I mean, we only have really kind of Texas out there. If you want to say, all right, that's the outsider looking in terms of making a run from the first four to the second weekend. It's just a different tournament itself, and I think that has contributed a little bit as well. And plus, I mean, offensive efficiency, on track to reach new highs. Teams even at the high major level are shooting threes better than they ever have been, even with that physical emphasis that you're talking about, Kevin. So I think it's a combination of factors, and that's not to say that we won't see these high points say, "Hey, look. All right, a couple more millions of dollars in terms of the roster investment, keeping guys or whatever. Maybe we can be one of those lone mid majors that can go on a run in the tournament moving forward." I think they're actually seeing proof positive that if you can make some of that investment, you can go toe to toe with some of these high major teams in the tournament, and that is probably going to lead to a different cycle moving forward these next couple of years. Maybe this is just kind of that interim period as everybody's trying to figure things out. But I think a lot of external factors have certainly contributed to this equation.
Yeah, good points, both you guys. The realignment issue is real. I think that. If you want to go back, and I did a story before the tournament started on everybody from a non-football power conference or non-Big East that went to the Final Four in the 21st century has changed conferences or is changing conferences. Everybody's trying to move up. And as you mentioned, the Big 12 taking Cincinnati out of the quote-unquote mid-major ranks, even though they never really were. But also BYU, also UCF, also Houston. If you go back, Conference USA used to have Louisville and Memphis and Marquette. They certainly don't have that anymore. And so everybody, this kind of shift to the American and to the A10, and there's just less inherently competitive programs, I think, in some of the true mid-major to low-major conferences. So I think that element is missing. Certainly, Kevin, what you said, it's a great point about the stylistic element of this. That when you are playing against multiple 7-footers, and you know what? Shout out to Lithuania. You're all over the Sweet 16. They got, big guys that are playing great all over college basketball right now. But it's just harder to do when you are matched up against gigantic size and you throw in shooters. It's a harder game. I think when you're going up against those disadvantages. Want to thank High Point for your service. You did give us a pretty darn big thrill, and darn near two big thrills. I mean, they played great against Arkansas. That was a hell of a game. So that was good. But yes, we are at a point where plucky little Texas, the richest athletic department in America, is the lowest seed still playing. Nebraska is trying to be the Indiana of basketball. Good for them. Great story, but, you know, a Big Ten school. Iowa, Big Ten school. Now they're doing it with a Division II point guard and a Division II coach, which is fantastic. The Bennett Sturts, Ben McCollum duo that shot down Florida. So, you know, that's what we got. It's been a very compelling tournament. It's going to continue to be a compelling tournament.